broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here is Reverend Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. And let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye. I still hate to say goodbye, so I say hello and how are you? Welcome to another broadcast offering entitled It's Time, in which we wrestle with the great question of reparation, wrestle with the great issues of justice, especially social justice, as it affects all of us within the social structure in which we find ourselves living, yes, surviving, yes, and hopefully existing and overcoming and prospering. But that may not always be the case because, like you said, you're living in someone else's social structure. And that is why we have to have these various topics and various conversations constantly going on so that as can I dare say, elderly generations get ready to pass off the scene, that our younger generations will have a pathway forward and at least a footprint which to observe, if not to follow to the letter. None of us can follow the previous generation to the letter, but we must certainly leave as much beneficial help and guidance as we possibly can, because it takes a lot of guidance for our generations to overcome, because I think we're dealing with a meaner and yet a more refined evil in these generations, which is a fulfillment of the scripture that said men will become wickeder and wiser. And certainly that is what we are confronted with in not only these United States of America, but indeed all over the known world, all over this globe, wherever the toxin, the poison of European civilization has spread. It has brought corruption along with benefits, but the benefits have inured basically to the European colonial class, and not as we would like to see to the indigenous, especially to the poor. You understand what I'm saying? And so constantly we are pressing the issue of reparations. God knows we need it when you got people like Joe Manchin and Senator Sinema blocking and stopping and preventing and hindering and scuttling every social justice program or platform, everything that every program that would be to the advancement or to the alleviation of the social suffering of our brothers and our sisters. And I certainly include my name or myself within that lot. I'm a bit older now, so I do have Social Security coming in every month, but that's not that much. And for most of us, the cost of living quickly devours or vitiates or really invalidates whatever little Social Security increase we may be receiving. I know how to get an amen on that one. And so the battle based upon the capitalistic system in which we find ourselves living, the battle to survive, the battle to thrive, the battle to live and to leave a inheritance behind for our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. It's an ongoing struggle. And I don't envy a young couple starting out in California now. When I came here in '68, you could actually look forward to not only purchasing your house, but to pay that house off and live a few years in relative ease, where that monthly note would not be over your head any longer. But then houses were cheaper then. Same house, much cheaper. Now the houses that used to sell for $32,000, $50,000 are way beyond the reach of the average first-time homeowner. And why is that? Why? It's because of the politicians who inhabit the social structure, and because of the corporatists, the bankers, the mortgage holders, those that make the loans, the insurance companies, and all of that genre of financiers who have gotten rich off of what they charge the poor. And the prices have gone exponentially higher, generationally considered. Who could consider now even a starter house in Los Angeles, I think, is over $400 and something thousand. That's just a starter. You'd have to fix it to make it something that you want to live in. And when you got to put that first, and then you're going to come back with a second because you got to get another loan in order to fix and repair, while you are setting up a prescription for foreclosure within 7 years. And that is the milieu that so many of our brothers and our sisters are finding themselves being ushered into, coerced and cajoled into it. The real estate brokers are getting rich. The real estate agents are getting big commissions. The banks that are carrying the mortgages, the insurance companies that are underwriting the mortgage, like AIG and all of that type of financial institution. Yes, they're doing well, but the nature of the institutionalization of bigotry and prejudice, which means that what John Roberts called private prejudice, well, that's no private prejudice when it's codified as to a public policy and has been voted on and legislated and passed. Why, it is no longer a private prejudice. It is a public policy. And that is what we are laboring against. Sure, the guy may not call you the N-word or anything, but if you're being treated by the institution that you have to confront as they regarded you as the N-word, why, that's even worse. But then I don't want to get too far off of our topic for today. Let us read our reparation scripture, and then we will move forward. Deuteronomy chapter 15, picking up the reading at verse number 12. It says that if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him or her go free from thee. And when thou sendest them out free from thee, thou shalt not let him or her go away empty, but thou shalt furnish them liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto them. You were not to allow people to be poor, and they have been with you in slavery, in servitude, labor, held to labor for any number of years. Which brings me back to the observation of the late Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall on the 200th celebration observance of the Constitution. And he said that the framers of the Constitution had sought for liberty and justice, but at the same time they denied both liberty and justice to the Negro here in these United States, so that we see that the Constitution itself was a flawed document, and not at all the perfect document from which we claim, the founders claimed, that in order to form a more perfect union, as Thurgood Marshall observed, that Constitution started out saying "we the people," and who were we the people? It certainly were not the enslaved. It was not the people that Columbus called Indians, and it was not women, and many other collections or cultures were not included in "we the people." Matter of fact, poor white men were not included in that "we the people." That "we the people" was a document for a landed person, and certainly the people who were enslaved and brought here against their will and forced into the peculiar institution, as it was so referenced, which most of us shun to talk about. But how are you ever going to get whole if you can't talk about what made you sick, what gave you this disease, this malady, this pathology, in order to heal or find a cure for pathology? A doctor, a scientist, or whatever, has to find out what is that cause, where did it originate. You have to do research. That's why we need sociology. They used to try to stop at the question of was it nature or nurture that made a person act a certain way. Well, the sociologist said a lot of time it's the environment, it's the experience that a person is forced to grow up in or to develop in that affects them. The eugenics people always said it was inherited. They said criminal activity was inherited, but the sociologist said not so. It is not an inherited, it's a matter of condition, social conditions. Yes, that means the social structure in which you are brought into, in which you were born, in which you live, and you grow, and you work, and you die, or grow old and you die, has a vastly more strong, potent impact on your development than merely who one's mother or father may happen to have been. And so people that grew up in poverty are forced to deal with conditions in poverty, whereas people who grew up in wealth and well-to-do neighborhoods deal with the conditions that tend to deal with wealth and well-to-do neighborhoods. And so you can just exponentially talk about the disparity between poverty and wealth. Is that right? And then when that poverty is enforced in poverty, so that you are not even allowed to move out of that poverty condition from one geographic location to a better or a more desirable geographic condition because of what they call systemic racism, and those racist policies are codified in law and in statute and in institutions. And when it is taught in your educational curriculum, they talk about, there's a book entitled The White Architects of Black Education. Yeah, you have a group that has a vested interest in maintaining the status quo as it exists at this moment. I turn now to a consideration of our brothers and sisters from the country of Haiti, and how horribly, how criminally they have been mistreated by the Border Patrol agents and the INS agents and the ICE agents, who are the tip of the spear of the federal government as it relates to the enforcement of immigration policy. You saw black people, black bodies being whipped, run down by 700 and 800 pound horses, and being on horseback with cowboy hats, lashing and throttling and pounding upon black bodies who were trying to get to this shore to seek asylum. not to seek immigration status, but to seek asylum, and in that country, fleeing the horrific poverty, fleeing the horrific destitution of their country, of Haiti, following the 2010 earthquake, and then the storms. I can't call the names of those storms that have been so devastating in the recent history of Haiti. The last storm that came through, Hurricane Ida, it really did a number in Haiti. And then don't forget they had another earthquake following rather this year, not that far back. And so yes, the country has been racked to its very foundation. And that was on top of the storm that was unleashed against Haiti following its successful overthrow of the French in 1804. And the United States government, the Canadian government, the French government, and the British government never let Haiti live it down. They never let that country become what it could have been had they not been so interfered with and constantly meddled with following the slave revolt that ended in the Louisiana Purchase, which you've heard me talk about, which you've heard your teachers in geography talk about. And no, Haiti never could catch a break. And the U.S. immigration policy that began to be enunciated in 1921, which was greatly influenced by so-called Dr. Harry Laughlin, who was a eugenicist, and that's another story all by itself. The eugenics, which means good genes or good pointing, felt that they could create a master race here in the United States of America. That master race, of course, is going to be lily white, blonde-headed, blue-eyed, and the U.S. immigration policies began to move in those directions. They didn't even want Eastern Europeans to be admitted into the United States, and that would include the Irish, and it would include the Italians and other nationalities from that region. The U.S. policy was that they wanted Northern and Western Europeans only to come and to be accepted as new citizens of the United States of America. America's immigration policy has always been a work in progress. It has always been a confused malaise, and I'm trying to not use the F word, but it has never been a clearly well articulated policy, except where it comes to people of a darker hue. Then that has always been, the door has always been closed. There has always been a 1% or a 2% quota on people from the continent of Africa, other than South Africa, white folk. But darker hued people and people from Haiti especially, you can verify that. You can see that during the years in which the United States government was encouraging people from Cuba to immigrate to the United States, to just flee the Cuban country, and if they made it across the 90 miles that separated Cuba from the United States, why the U.S. Navy would aid and abet and help them in their little ships to make it to shore here on the United States coast of Florida. and they were always light-skinned Cubans. As long as you was a light-skinned Cuban, you could come over here. But if you were a dark-skinned Haitian, they'd turn your little boat around, and that boat sunk on its way back. That's just too bad. But that was always the American policy on Haiti. Cubans, yes. Haiti, no. Cuba, C. Haiti, no. Light skin, C. Dark skin, no, 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 no. And so those policies are basically still in effect between the U.S. and its relationship with the people in Haiti. Remember that Haiti does not have a functioning government because the meddling of the United States had pulled out the only popularly elected President Aristide, and they dropped him, rather kidnapped Aristide out of Haiti, forced him on American planes. The second time that he was kidnapped, they dropped him in the Central Republic of Africa, Congo somewhere. And Congresswoman Maxine Waters, along with Randall Robinson and the people from the radio station KPFK, Amy Goodman, were able to charter a plane and go in there and get President Aristide and bring him back into range with Jamaica, even under the threats from then Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who said if you bring, who threatened Jamaica, that if you let Aristide come on that continent, come in your country, that you're going to have trouble from the United States. But the president of Jamaica at that time, whose name escapes me, the prime minister, called the United States bluff and accepted his brother in the Caribbean, President Aristide, and then Aristide was finally able to finish out his last 2 years back home in Haiti, but not without constant interference, constant threats of coups. The United States has never been benign where people are in power that the United States cannot bend to the will of the U.S. Government. You can't bend them to the will of the corporate rulership. As they said to the president of Chile, we either give you a blanket of gold or a carpet of bombs. In other words, if you play by the rules, we'll give you a blanket of gold. You go against the rule, you get a carpet of bombs. And there have been massive and numerous and many assassinations of heads of state by the State Department of the United States of America. The policy of the CIA was to commit these coups, go in there and foment unrest in the country and stir up the people, arm those people to overthrow their elected leader and put in a puppet leader that was more malleable and more amenable to U.S. Foreign policy. That's what happened in Nicaragua, Guatemala, and all of those countries. That's why those people are always coming in here, because we have destroyed their governments. And we continue, we being we the people of the United States of America, continue to do that. But the U.S. immigration policy is a shipwreck, and it has never been fixed. It has never been coherent, as we say, except as in the fact that they know they don't want no whole lot of Haitians coming in here, and they don't want but a few people from the continent of Africa coming in here. And those that come here, they are very well educated and professional types. And you notice the lady that won the 800-meter marathon, her last name is Mu, can't think of her first name. Athing Mu, that's her name. Well, those were people that the United States policy let in, welcomed in, because they had what? Skill. They could run track. So they bring those people in and enroll them at the great colleges there in Texas. She's a student at the University of Texas. And when I was growing up, Negro couldn't walk across the University of Texas. As a matter of fact, Herman Sweater, you call his name, had to go all the way to the Supreme Court to get an opportunity to attend the law school at the University of Texas. And now the U.S. policy has shifted, has changed, and because these people from Kenya and from the other parts of Nigeria can run and can walk and can win the Olympics, while they have a quota to let those type of people in. And that is what is so galling about seeing how the other darker hued people were so viciously beaten and tortured by the Border Patrol. We don't know what they're doing down there. And because the people from Haiti are constantly trying to immigrate into the United States, there is now a tacit policy to hire guards at Guantanamo that speak Creole. Well, whereas Creole spoken most, it's being spoken in Haiti. So they're planning to put people who try to immigrate out of Haiti into the United States and become captured. They're going to be taken to Guantanamo. You watch what I'm telling you. And so, my brothers and my sisters, as we wrap this up, we see this hodgepodge approach to immigration policy that the United States has run amok, has run aground, and it is graphically become apparent that the United States doesn't really have a cohesive, coherent immigration policy. Other than that, they don't want that many black-hued people from black countries, from the black continent on U.S. soil. They want them to come with visas, and they don't want them to overstay their time. And of course, the people from the continent of Africa and other continents, quite naturally, they don't smuggle in. They have their paperwork. They're not like people from Guatemala, Nicaragua, Caracas, Mexico, and the like. Haiti, those people come from so far away, they got their papers in order, and they're waiting their turn. But the people that live here in the northern hemisphere, of course not. From Haiti, they just come on in. From Mexico, they come on in. They walk across the border. And so what am I saying? You get a better quality of immigrant coming from the African countries than you really get from the other countries, even though the people from this continent, from all of the countries that we have invaded on this continent and tried to overrule and try to control those countries by proxy, even though those people have skills, they are not as skilled as people say coming from the continent of Africa, who have been vetted, who have been to the universities before they come to immigrate into the United States of America. Haven't said very much, but I hope I have stirred your righteous indignation somewhat. Don't forget the part that the eugenics played in this whole milieu, because people were sterilized involuntarily for various reasons that the eugenicists felt would purify the blood culture, or it would minimize and eliminate 15 million. That's how much the eugenicists were willing to sterilize. They wanted to sterilize 15 million people, and most of them black and the like. Well, that's our country. That's what you're battling against. That's the system that you, the social structure that you're growing up in, and that you must now correct with the help of God. As I say good evening to you, my brothers and my sisters that are working on these thankless jobs, look up, have faith, start training yourself, and get ready to get off of that dead-end job while you're young. And remember, they don't want to pay you good money. Thank God this pandemic is going to make them start lifting those wages because nobody's coming to work no more. But if they don't want to pay you, don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We're out of here.